Hello, and welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I'm Jason Oliver.
Arbuckle. Geoff Arbuckle.
Yes, so we're talking about a movie today that Geoff hates.
Ooh.
He hates this movie so much.
If this was opposite day,
Yeah.
and hate
Psych!
Psych! Yeah, it's opposite day.
What are we talking about, Geoff?
We're talking about James Bond, and not just we're not starting with Dr. No like most people would, or Casino Royale, which is technically the beginning of his story. No, we're diving right in. Movie number 17. We're talking about GoldenEye.
So I'm going to play interviewer here a little bit. And my first question right off the bat is, why would Dr. No be the one that you think we should talk about, or people would think we'd want to talk about?
Because if you think about the Bond series, the 24 films that make up the Bond series, that's the first one. That 1962. That's where you first meet Bond as a film character.
And Casino Royale was the
first novel.
that was right, but there was also a Casino Royale that was not a Bond movie, really.
There were two other versions of Casino Royale. One made with Barry Nelson playing a part of an American, Jimmy Bond. That was his name.
Yeah,
Jimmy Bond.
Wow. In
a made-for-TV, what they used to call Playhouse type of TV movies, where he would basically, it was an hour-long adaptation, relatively and fairly like straightforward adaptation of that novel.
Okay.
And then in
the
1967
comedy.
was the Peter Sellers, Peter Ustinov, John Huston, Woody Allen. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. That one's rough. That's a rough set. The only reason to watch that movie would be for the theme song, which is very it's trumpet. It's very light and happy, and the Oscar-nominated song "The Look of Love."
Okay.
Which I think it was Dusty Springfield. I could be wrong, but
I love me some Dusty Springfield.
That was a big hit, and it was redone for one of the Austin Powers movies.
Oh, okay. All right. So then, obviously, there was Casino Royale with Daniel Craig,
right?
Which was the reboot.
Yeah, basically.
I hate
that word, but that's really what
it was. It was the reset.
The reset. The reset button was pressed.
Yeah, after the Brosnan series ran its course.
Yes.
And so we're talking about GoldenEye, which is the first of the Brosnan films.
Yes, and the main reason why I chose this was for two reasons. This was kind of what would have been considered a 90s reboot.
Yeah.
So a little bit of history, and I know you have questions for me about my history personally.
Sure.
But a little bit of history in terms of the series itself. License to Kill was Timothy Dalton's second and last Bond movie. Came out in 1989. United Artists and MGM went through some financial troubles and could not produce another Bond. They attempted to sell the rights, or they were contacted about selling the rights, but basically for 6 years Bond was left.
Well, boy,
basically
they've got to be pretty glad they didn't sell.
Yeah,
ultimately,
because
hold your assets.
Yeah, basically. Eon Productions was really who made the Bond films. EON stood for Everything or Nothing, which was Albert Broccoli, the producer, and Harry Saltzman, who was his partner for the early films. Unfortunately, those two had a falling out. But that was what they basically was like, we're going all in or we got nothing at all. And that was their philosophy from the early 60s. Well, Eon Productions, we're getting really into the weeds here.
Get into it.
Eon Productions was the holder of the film rights, basically, and but they could make the movies, but they didn't have distribution.
Okay.
United Artists and MGM had the distribution.
Yep.
The home movie rights, while in the late 80s, While basically after MGM made their shit deal with Canon Films, that really lost them all sorts of money.
Yeah.
They sold off the home movie rights to CBS Fox. And so some people will have VHS tapes of some of the Bond films that are CBS Fox home movie releases. In fact, 20th Century Fox is the distributor of the Blu-ray set.
Okay.
That I have.
Yeah.
So there's a whole behind the scenes story there, but Eon could make a Bond movie, although diminishing returns throughout the course of the 80s put them in a little bit of a bind, and they didn't really have United Artists or MGM able to push the movie through.
It seemed
the
like
theaters.
Maybe a good time to take a break anyway, right? Like,
yeah, I mean there was yeah.
I feel like Bond has its fans in every generation.
Yes.
But maybe people get a little tired of a specific point of view or trajectory.
Yeah.
And people maybe need a cooling off period.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, obviously each decade that a Bond movie came out, particularly the 60s, 70s, and 80s, each fit a certain sensibility. In the 60s, we've kind of talked about this before. If you go all the way back to when we talked about Deep Red how David Hemmings?
Yes.
Yeah. How he was very had a lot of that British machismo.
Yeah.
Well, Bond kind of fit that in the 60s, right? So he's kind of I guess a little bit of a I mean, he is a chauvinist.
Well, he's what Austin Powers is parodying in Austin Powers.
Right.
I mean, really.
He is right. He's full of himself.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does. I mean, you can't deny the track record.
Right.
But he's very condescending also. In the 70s, once you bring Roger Moore into it, Roger Moore is a different type of Bond. He's the upper class Bond. He's not right through force of will. He is a lot more smug.
Yeah.
When you get into the 80s, now you have this weird period of the world is changing.
Yeah.
It's like the Cold War was coming to an end. By the time Timothy Dalton came around, American audiences aren't exactly thinking of Russia the same way.
I think there might be something else at play here too, is that the 80s action movie is its own force of nature.
Yep. And Bond is a little more cerebral than
right.
that.
And even so, it's kind of more cerebral, maybe a lot more intrigue, slower.
Yeah.
It's telling a larger
movies.
Story.
Yeah.
And that's not really what people wanted.
No, they wanted
Chuck Norris,
Arnold
Schwarzenegger, fucking blowing shit up and spitting one-liners.
And by the end of the 80s,
is more exploitation, really, the 80s action.
Right. And by the end of the 80s, you wanted schlubs like Bruce Willis.
Yeah, and spies weren't really in vogue in the 80s.
No.
Like it was.
No, the world had changed. The world had moved on from the cloak and dagger stuff. Mm-hmm. Also, you have another problem in the mid 80s. So Roger Moore became Bond mostly for two reasons. One, the producers did not get along with George Lazenby, who had been in only one film. He got into some weird stuff. There is a wonderful documentary called Becoming Bond that is a little bit magical realism, a little bit of truth, a little bit of fantasy. It's hilarious. It's a little sad, and it's.
Is it all about Lazenby?
Yes.
Oh wow.
And
he was a model, right?
He was, and he became friends with some bohemian type of guys who were like, "Oh, you're just being used as a tool of Hollywood and of corporate media and stuff like that." And he kind of went a little hippie. He did the press tour for his Bond film with shaggy hair and a beard.
Okay.
Which
that's pretty faux pas.
Yes.
Yeah.
For Bond, you have to be clean cut.
Yeah.
You have to be Bond.
Yeah.
And he refused to, and so they fired him.
Yeah.
Some will say he quit. Some will say he got fired. But one of the problems was that so initially Timothy Dalton had the opportunity to be Bond much earlier in life. He was a friend of the Broccoli family, and he had been in A Lion in Winter, which was a relatively well thought of Oscar-nominated movie.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, right?
Yeah, I believe Timothy Dalton and Anthony Hopkins are lovers in that, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember that, but
I think
maybe I didn't understand it.
I thought that was the insinuation.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I could be
wrong. But he was only like 30 or something at that time, and he said, "No, I'm too young. I can't. This isn't right." So they eventually looked to Roger Moore, who had already been famous. In America, people knew him as the British cousin of the Mavericks in Maverick.
Yep.
He was the Saint, which was an international hit.
Yeah.
The Saint was already kind of Bondish, which we'll get back around to Pierce Brosnan here in just a moment.
Yeah.
So he took over the Bond role. Now, that's all fine and dandy. He's a recognizable figure. He certainly fit the part. He was thought of as a very high-class person, even though he grew up Cockney. Mm-hmm. He is
kind of Michael Caine-ish there. Yeah.
They were friends.
Yeah,
they were
perfect.
They were pals.
Yeah.
So they were. So the thought was, okay, we've got the guy at least for the rest of the 70s. He was 2 years older than Sean Connery.
Okay. When he took over?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he was already older than Sean Connery, which is fine continuity-wise. It's a real big problem in 1985.
Yeah.
Because now you have essentially an old man having sex with Tanya Roberts, who was not young herself at that time. I mean, this is 9 years after Tourist Trap.
Yeah.
After she was on Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
But still played up as a young, naive girl.
Right.
And he's also having shenanigans with Grace Jones.
Yep.
That's concerning. That's very problematic. He is an old man at this point. I don't like View to a Kill very
That's
much.
interesting.
It's not my least favorite, but I don't like that movie very much.
Huh.
Which is funny because a lot of people will it's probably a very fashionable pick for a lot of people's favorites because of Christopher Walken.
Well, that one would come in at number 4 or 5 for me on the theme songs ranking.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a great theme song.
Duran theme song is really good.
There are things to like in that movie. Yeah. It's a bad movie though, really, and it's really problematic because you have an older man playing Bond. He is almost fatherly towards the Bond girl, which is also problematic, just because he's so old.
That's a bit creepy.
Tanya Roberts is playing a character who's very young and naive, and he's so old and seasoned. That's just weird, man. So then you also have, by the mid 80s, the comedic leanings towards the Roger Moore era is also problematic. Roger Moore was probably our Bond, really. He was Bond when we were growing up. We were first watching movies. You were, even though you're a couple of years younger than me, you got Roger Moore probably burned into your head somehow because he was on cable constantly.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, honestly, Sean Connery was really still like kind of my Bond. Like, yes, Roger Moore, sure, but
he was the contemporary Bond.
I was always a Sean Connery fan.
Sure.
And I think part of that goes along with the fact that I liked other movies that Sean Connery was in.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
growing up, like Hunt for Red October, stuff
Yeah.
like that, and then when I'm going back and watching Bond movies, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
like
that guy.
It's that guy. He was always kind of Bond to me.
Sure. Okay. Well,
Roger Moore was like the guy who didn't do anything else that I knew, who also played James Bond, and I sort of dismissed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Yeah.
The only thing I can remember, this is sad, but it's true. I haven't seen a ton of the old Bond movies, especially the Roger Moore ones. The only thing I can remember from Roger Moore is a scene where he's like running across alligators. Which one is that?
Oh, that's Live and Let Die.
There you go.
That growing up, Live and Let Die was my favorite Bond movie.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons. One, it's got a little blaxploitation in it, which I'm a fan of. Two, it was on constantly when I was and growing up. 75% of the people that are roughly our age would point to Roger Moore as being their Bond.
Sure. I mean, I don't discount that.
Yeah.
But I'm maybe a little weird and different.
Well, sure. No. I mean, well, we're about to get into my weird and different. We're about to take that turn. But also, I mean, that Paul McCartney theme and
It's
the
great.
George Martin score is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you're in top 5 definitely there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I love the Guns N' Roses remake too. It's good. It's good. It's good. The guitar, man.
I can't get behind it, man.
It's,
I can't get behind it.
I like it.
I'm gonna have to say that no, it's not for me.
You're gonna nope it.
Nope.
Oh, I got noped.
I mean, I don't hate it, but it's not my cup of tea.
Axel Sangs, man. He sangs it.
So like, okay, now you've got a situation where you've got an 80s action star who's in his 60s.
Yeah.
And these are movies that are the one thing about Bond movies are they have a certain set of tropes that they will always hit. And that's going to run out of mileage after a while.
Sure.
So
it gets pretty stale.
It gets stale.
Yep.
And when you have a flippant action star who is old enough to be his romantic leading lady's father.
Yeah.
It's problematic. Now,
and especially when you look at the other action stars of the 80s.
Exactly. They're all bigger, they're younger.
Bulky, they're young. They have like
fewer
actual
words.
Skill, like fighting skills.
Yeah.
If you think of like a Chuck Norris or a Van Damme.
Right. And they say fewer things.
Yep.
They don't go for I mean, they have, like, Schwarzenegger certainly had his one-liners.
Yes.
But they're not, you're not playing to the joke. It's just that it was the punctuation to the moment.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Whereas Bond plays to those jokes.
Yeah.
It drives the scene to that joke.
You're right.
Also, I mean, when you look at Roger Moore's career as Bond, he made 7 films. 2 of them are considered very, very good. One of them is considered pretty good. One of them is kind of, and then you have 2 that are generally considered, bad. Or 3 considered bad. Generally pretty bad. Yeah. Although there's one I would argue that is unfairly considered bad. Moonraker, fuckers. I'm gonna say it. Moonraker. Moonraker is again Bond always.
Moonraker, fuckers.
Yeah,
I want a shirt with that.
It says Moonraker, fuckers.
I want a film Seizure shirt that says Moonraker, fuckers. I'm gonna say it.
So here's the thing with Moonraker, and here's the thing with Bond series in general. Bond has always followed trends, and when the biggest trend of them all happens in Star Wars, Bond is naturally going to follow. You see that a little bit later in Pierce Brosnan's run where Die Another Day tries to fit a different type of movie and it falls flat on its fucking face. A lot of people would say that Moonraker falls flat on its fucking face. I say it's wonderful cheese.
Okay.
So anyway,
it's just stinky cheese.
I mean, it's a really sharp cheddar. It's a really sharp cheddar. But so you've got an aging series with an aging star. you are ready to move on with a younger guy.
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan. Unfortunately, NBC decides, no, we're going to make one more season of
Remington Steele,
a show that's not pulling its weight.
All right.
I don't know if
Why couldn't they buy it out? They couldn't buy him out?
Well, the Bond producers don't spend a whole lot of money.
Yeah, but he's the guy, right? Maybe,
Well,
but maybe not. Maybe not for the price.
Well, maybe not.
They probably tried to buy him out.
But they still have family friend Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
And I personally...
the bad guy in The Rocketeer. I know that guy.
The Rock of who? I am very much on record for liking the 2 Timothy Dalton movies.
There were only 2.
There were only 2. It was Living Daylights and License to Kill.
And what were the years?
87 and 89.
Okay.
Living Daylights re-energized the series by using the old tropes, but having a person who fit the part for those tropes a little bit better than an aging man. It also started to turn towards the modernization of Bond is actually relatively sweet to the girl, as opposed to thinking of her as somebody who doesn't belong where she is. Because it is about a musician that gets wrapped up in this conspiracy, and he's very sweet to her without
being condescending.
Without being very condescending, which is funny because Timothy Dalton's Bond is much closer to the novel Bond, where he is very hard edged and very rugged, as opposed to the upperclassman that Roger Moore was. And then, with License to Kill, which is, by this time, there's not a Cold War really anymore. So he takes on a drug dealer, and it's really rugged.
Takes it to the streets.
Kind of does. He's, he's rogue, and it's a pretty, they're solid entries. And I think they're finally starting to get the credit that was due to them some 30 years later. Growing up, I constantly had to defend to people who got too stuck on the Roger Moore version.
Constantly.
I constantly had to defend
it was like you were getting bullied.
No, but we worked at the video store. We talked about that last week. And people were renting, Bond movies, and they'd ask me what my favorite was, and I was like, well, here's some that I like.
It sounds to me like you were like going home depressed because you were getting bullied for like a Timothy Dalton Bond movies.
No, you know what?
And you turned to the internet,
those fuckers down.
and you found like a small corner of the internet where you were able to get the validation that you needed from people from
other Bond fans.
Yeah, from people who only, I don't know, liked a certain type of hair gel.
No, you're trying.
And then you got really into that hair gel.
No,
and then
you're making it sound like I joined the alt-right.
Yes,
something.
I know. That's what I was trying to like vaguely make that reference. Yeah,
we're proud Daltons. No, here's the
proud
deal.
Daltons.
No, here's the deal. People,
you were a Bond cell, a Dalton cell.
I'm a Bond cell.
An indult.
An indult. Yeah. No, it's just it's one of those things where it's like, it was, by then I had read some of the novels. I had learned a little bit more. I'd become an aficionado, if you will.
Yes. Well, when did you get your tattoo? When did you get your tattoo?
97.
So after GoldenEye.
Yeah, so it was before the world or Tomorrow Never Dies came out. It was a couple months before that came out. I got it.
I kind of like that one.
Tomorrow Never Dies is not one of my favorites.
Is that the one with
Jonathan Pryce?
Oh,
he's playing Ted Turner.
No, not that one. I'm thinking of the one with Robert Carlyle.
Oh yeah, I like that one a lot. The World Is Not Enough.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, a lot of people shit on that one too.
Yeah.
And you know what? I shut them down too. Here's the thing: World Is Not Enough is the last.
Tomorrow Never Dies was the one with Michelle Yeoh, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
and a really, really, really problematic use of slow mo in that movie. I hate slow mo. Fucking hate it.
Did it go all John Woo?
No.
No.
It's not very good. The World Is Not Enough I defend that by saying it was the final Bond film made with traditional tropes.
Okay.
Because Die Another Day tried to be something else, and when that didn't work, they said we're just going to reboot the thing, and there's a new
reset the thing.
There's a new reset. There's a new set of tropes that are now being used. So
they went into the realism then.
It went into the post 9/11 world.
Yeah.
That's a whole different world now.
Yeah.
So it's using a different set of rules now.
I think people will eventually want to go back to the sort of fun-loving Bond. Do you think so?
Yeah, because I've always kind of taken the Daniel Craig era as being, this is Bond still trying to learn who he is.
I think it's sort of running its course, though.
Well, it kind of is, because now, it's like, it's fine to see the first 4 movies where he's had to deal with the little tragedies that make him the steely person that shows up in Dr. No.
But how many movies do you need to do that?
Well, the problem is that they did experiment a little bit. So Casino Royale, they made him into essentially he was essentially a hammer to kill a fly, basically.
Yeah.
He's like when he's chasing the parkour guy, he's running through walls.
Yeah.
As opposed to being athletic.
Yeah.
He's very he has no control over himself.
Yeah.
Then they tried with Quantum of Solace to have a sequel.
Yeah.
The first time that they ever had a direct sequel.
Direct sequel, yeah.
The only other time that they had sequelized anything was in between On Her Majesty's Secret Service when Blofeld killed Teresa, who Bond married, and the very opening sequence to Diamonds Are Forever when Sean Connery was basically taking his revenge.
Yeah.
That was the only time they truly sequelized the series.
Doesn't it feel like all the Daniel Craig ones are a
it's
serial?
A series. It is a serial. The only difference being that Skyfall, you learn more about him as a person, where he came from, and how much he truly appreciates having some sort of parental figure in him.
That one, I think, of all the Bond movies that I've seen, is the one that humanized him the most.
Yes.
I really,
well, that's my favorite one.
I really like Skyfall a lot. Yep.
And then with Spectre, they tried to tie all the pieces together.
I fucking did not like Spectre.
I like Spectre. It's not one of the better ones.
I just thought it was a mess. And I didn't get Christoph Waltz as Blofeld at all.
Yeah,
I just didn't. That did not work for me.
It's modernizing the whole thing, but it's the idea of, well, if you have all of these little things happen, somebody has to be pulling the strings. It's that idea that movies typically.
I liked what they were building up to. I just thought that it farted all over the place.
Yeah. I don't disagree that there was major problems with that, but.
But we've danced around almost everything.
Pretty much.
But let's go back to GoldenEye.
Okay. So by the mid-90s, so growing up, the Bond movies played constantly on cable. It used to be during the summertime, either ABC's Sunday night movie of the week or Monday night movie of the week was always a Bond movie. So, I'd record them, I'd watch them, I'd keep those recordings, I'd watch them again. It got to the point by 89 when License to Kill came out. That was the first one I ever actually saw in the theater.
Oh, cool.
So I went and saw that twice. I saw it once at the Quad, at the AMC, or at the General Cinema.
General Cinema, yep.
And then I saw it when it went to the Houston, which was the Keystone Arts Theater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The Houston used to be a second-run theater at that time.
Okay.
And so I went and saw it there. And then after that, I was like, okay, I need to fill in these gaps. Because License to Kill does make reference that he was married before, but I'd never seen On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay.
So I started either watching the ones that ABC played, or I would check to see what was going to be on Showtime, because Showtime was who showed those, not HBO. It's funny how I remember shit like that. It was all based on the movie company.
Yeah, different. Right, they had different rights to different
HBO
studios.
was owned by Warner.
Different
and,
distribution rights and agreements. Yeah.
So, MGM movies played on Showtime.
Yep.
So I watched, what I could on there. I would go to Blockbuster. I'd have my mom take me to Blockbuster, rent a couple.
They probably had. I mean, most video
of them
stores
or
had
all
most
of
of
them.
them. Yeah.
A couple of them sometimes you'd have a hard time finding.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service was one that was always hard to find in the video store.
Kind of, yeah, because that one is the most underrated one.
Yeah.
And almost everybody agrees with that.
I've never seen it.
It's really good. It's a little weird because it still plays with some of the tropes, but there's a ton of heart in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I eventually got to see them all. By 93 or 94, I was able to essentially purchase all of them, or certainly by 95. I was able to purchase all of them.
So you had seen or owned all of them before
GoldenEye
came
out.
So GoldenEye, when that came out, it was like a big deal.
When I saw the GoldenEye trailer in front of, it might have been Lord of Illusions, I pretty much shit my pants. Yeah, because like the news was, the news was out there that the Bond movie was coming, but back then you didn't know what trailers you were going to get.
Yeah, and it was hard to even get any information.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you would get something in Premiere Magazine or Entertainment Weekly or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was about it. So you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You didn't, I mean, it wasn't like today where you would get a commercial for a commercial for a commercial of a trailer.
Yeah.
I'm getting real sick of that shit.
Yeah.
I'm getting real sick also of the commercials of the trailer right before the trailer that you see on YouTube. Oh, come on.
Well, yeah.
Just let me experience it for the first time,
Well, the problem is with marketing of film, I think, in a lot of ways, is this oversaturation of the movie before, like 6 months before the movie even comes out.
Yeah.
It's like you're killing my spirit here.
That's why
I'm excited to see your movie, but I'm not going to be excited to see your movie after I've seen your promos for the next 4 months.
Right. The Avengers Endgame trailer I thought was perfect because you know what's not in that trailer? Any action.
Yeah.
It's all character stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the original characters dealing with their loss.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
It is.
So don't release another trailer.
No.
Let us go in.
They don't even need to. Are you kidding me? They just need to make sure everyone knows when it fucking comes out.
Make sure that there's a little hint at the end of Captain Marvel.
They were going to date this episode with this, but there was a poll that was just done, and the next Avengers movie is tracking far higher than the next Star Wars movie for next year.
No, I'm not surprised.
Like it is.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're talking about saturation there.
Yeah.
So whereas the Marvel movies create something different every quarter, what Star Wars is. That's teeny tiny little universe that's all, manufactured the same way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress.
But you're right. Star Wars is a much smaller universe than Marvel,
which takes place in an entire galaxy, whereas Marvel takes place on one planet.
And that's a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so when I first saw the trailer for GoldenEye, I was like, hot damn. And I had seen all the movies at that point. So it's like, I know the backstory. I know I'm starting to read some of the novels. I am in, man. And when GoldenEye came out, I remember going to see it, I think probably at Lowe's in the morning. And then that night, I went to for the very first time, went to the United Artists Circle Center Theater because that was brand new when that movie came out.
I think I saw it at the Sony. I had just moved to Indianapolis, but I don't really remember. I know I saw it in the theater. I know that definitively. And it's the first Bond movie I saw in the theater. And I think I've seen all of them in the theater since. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved
it. It's
and I wasn't even close to your level of Bond fan.
Well, it was introducing a new generation to the character and updating him to fit the era that this was now coming out in. we've now got a post-Cold War, do you call it post-feminism, maybe, Bond? A little bit.
It came out in the genesis of the
was that the second wave feminism?
The sexual harassment, right? So so you had like things like Anita Hill.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of movies coming out around this time, like Disclosure.
And our sitting president was not without his
the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Well, that wasn't quite yet.
You're right, it wasn't.
This was more the Jennifer Flowers,
right?
Sort of stuff.
So there was definitely this rising sensibility to just the probably more so than anything, the women in the workplace.
Yeah, and this was already after Hillary's speech about equality and stuff. So it's like this is in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And Bond again chases those kind of trends.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And this one was for the better.
Yeah. The scene in this movie with Judi Dench as M in her office is fucking aces.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so good.
It is telegraphing to the audience that this is the world we live in now.
Yeah.
Why do we have Bond? You're a relic of the Cold War era. Well, there is still a place for it. Later movies explore why there is still a Bond.
Yeah.
Even though technically his character shouldn't exist in this world.
She plays that scene. It's written really well, for one, but she plays it really well as well. There is a matrony aspect to what she's doing there, where she's like, I hope you come back alive.
Yeah.
And you can see in her eyes that she means it.
Yeah.
But she's also kind of like repulsed by him.
Yeah. You'd think that with an actress like that, she'd win an Oscar or something.
I know, right? I mean, what a hack.
Yeah.
Fucking Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench. Yeah. It's funny if you think it's like, what if they had hired like Helen Mirren? They would have been fucking on that desk.
Dude, Helen Mirren. I have just the worst thing for Helen Mirren.
She seems like a fun chick.
She's just timelessly beautiful.
Yeah. And she does not mind letting you know that she's a little naughty.
Man, she just, oh my goodness. I mean, of course, when she was in her 20s, like
Excalibur.
I mean, oh my God, she could melt you with a look.
Oh yeah.
But she is just, I mean, what is she, in her 60s now?
Oh, yeah, maybe, surely.
I mean, she's still just gorgeous.
What
a lady, Helen Mirren. Whew. Helen.
Whew. I think this brings so this brings us to one thing that I had made a note about, and that is the Bond as a character. We've kind of danced around it with sensibilities and chasing trends and so on and so forth. And there are different ways that Bond is portrayed. And I think that brings up one of the questions I wanted to ask you as somebody who has, I don't want to say an outsider's perspective, but a different perspective than mine.
Sure, yeah.
There are a few people on the earth that I would say has a similar perspective as me when it comes to Bond.
Yeah.
Like, you had mentioned we're in a Facebook group and I was talking Bond, and I could have gone so much further.
Oh, yeah.
And I could have come off very dickish if I really wanted to.
It's hard when you know so much and you're passionate about something so much to not come off like that.
And especially not to fire back when I see dissenting opinion from it's like I just had to step away.
But
eventually.
You know what? Yeah, you just do, because
there's a difference between, like, because I will say, okay, there are 24 Bonds, right? And I will say that there are 5 truly bad Bond films. Truly bad Bond films.
What are they? Our listeners want to know.
Number 1 is The Man with the Golden Gun. It's terrible. Christopher Lee's great. That's awesome. Britt Eklund is always a pleasure to see in a movie. That movie's garbage. Number 2,
I like Britt Eklund.
Well, and she's great.
I haven't seen that movie.
Then there's A View to a Kill.
Yeah, okay.
That's a really bad movie. Again, we've already talked about why.
Yep.
Christopher Walken's great.
Yep.
But not very good. Then Die Another Day is
Yeah, it's bad.
Every time I watch that, it slips closer and closer to worst ever. Then Diamonds Are Forever is kind of really disjointed.
It's one of the worst theme songs too. I hate that song. I hate it. I worked at Blockbuster, and they played like a lot of the Bond theme songs in a medley on one of the tapes. And every time that came on, this guy that I worked with, we would look at each other and we would like mimic that we were shooting ourselves in the head. I fucking hate that song.
Then the fifth one. This is a considerable step up from those four, but Tomorrow Never Dies is not a very good movie.
No.
It's very bland.
So two Brosnans are in the worst five,
which is funny because that's part of the problem that Brosnan had was that one, some people just didn't like him as Bond.
Yeah,
which kind of surprises me.
I think that's odd. He seems to be perfect for the part.
Most people who don't like that are slightly older than us. I should say.
Yeah.
So they're really deeply rooted.
Did they not like the Dalton Bonds either? Probably not.
Probably not.
Because he's sort of similar in look and stature.
Yeah. GoldenEye was supposed to be supposed to be a Timothy Dalton movie.
Yeah.
It's just made too late.
Yeah.
Those people are probably more deeply rooted in the Roger Moore. The other one that kind of circles that fifth worst is Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Because that one too is kind of bland.
Yeah.
It's continuing a story that shouldn't be continued the way it was continued.
Yep.
So I don't know. Eon Productions, hire me.
Yeah.
I'll make you a goddamn great Bond movie. Anyway. So those movies are kind of at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, but all 24 Bond movies I would rather watch right now. Even if you said, Geoff, let's watch Die Another Day 4 times in a row, I'd probably rather watch that than almost any other movie aside from a Marvel movie.
What, really?
Yeah, probably.
Almost any other movie?
Almost any other movie.
Almost any other movie?
Almost any other movie.
Like, what would be the exception to that rule? Because that is...
The Marvel movies.
That's it?
I mean,
that's crazy to hear you say that.
There are some.
I mean, we just talked about The Shining. You would rather watch Die Another Day than The Shining?
I'd rather watch Die Another Day right now than to watch The Shining again 2 nights in a row. Let's put it that way.
So you're saying,
so
you're saying you can just put it on and turn your mind off?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, I guess I can understand
half
that.
Half the Bond movies have that kind of quality. Now some of the best Bond movies, like the top 5 or so Bond movies. You want me to count those off too?
Sure.
While we're at it.
Our audience, our listening audience wants to know.
Okay. So number 1 is Skyfall. Number 2 is GoldenEye.
Okay.
GoldenEye gets extra bonus points for the excitement leading up to. I mean, I'd gone 6 years without a Bond movie, without something new, and the fact that it was able to do what it could do gets it extra bonus points. Number 3 is Casino Royale.
Okay.
Number 4 is The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay.
And number 5 is...
That's got the sexiest Bond theme.
Oof, that's a good one, man. Number 5, I'd probably say... Oof, this one's tough. 5 is, again, you get a couple that are kind of in each other's orbit.
Yeah.
For Your Eyes Only is a really good movie. It's all about revenge and would have been the better place for Roger Moore to depart, because he kind of teaches the Bond girl a lesson about revenge, considering that movie also deals with Blofeld and his wife's death at the very beginning.
Okay.
And he actually gets his revenge at the beginning of that movie. So it's kind of, it's an interesting kind of movie about revenge and about, that sort of stuff. Although I'd probably say that I put Thunderball probably there in the 5th spot.
Let's remake Thunderball.
Hey,
Geoff, I have an idea. Let's remake Thunderball. That's my
boy. They did it.
That's my terrible impersonation.
Yeah, they did it, and it was bad.
Yeah, they did.
Never Say Never Again. Also, not an official Bond movie. Get that right out of your thoughts.
Right out
now.
of your face.
Yeah, if you're about to comment on something, actually,
Actually,
nope, it's not. It isn't. It is not.
Unauthorized.
It's unauthorized. Somebody else owned the rights to that story, and they exercised it.
Boom.
Boom. There it is. So shut
Like
your
a
face.
GoldenEye fucking satellite
Just
electric shock explosion.
Yep. An EMP just went off in your
EMP
face.
in your face.
The other thing is a lot of people are surprised when I don't say Goldfinger. Goldfinger, while it does set in stone a lot of the tropes that began technically with From Russia with Love, opening credit sequence, that sort of stuff. Goldfinger was the first one to carry forward some of those tropes. That movie, for as good as it is, I don't have the same personal connection to. It's if it's on TV during one of the many marathons I've watched of Bond films, particularly when Spike was doing them, or there were stations that would do them over Thanksgiving weekend. Yep. I'd watch the fuck out of it if it was on. And there you go, right there. I would have sat in front of Spike TV watching whatever shitty Bond movie they put on. I'd rather watch that than put in something else. I mean, but Goldfinger is very good. It's almost unfair to constantly pick it as one of the best when other things connect with me more. I certainly understand people like my dad having some of those earlier ones being his favorites, compared to some of the more recent ones being my favorites. But yeah, some people would say that Goldfinger not being in my top 5 would take away my card.
Ooh.
And that's when I
that's when you
whip out my License to Kill.
You get a little smugma on them.
Yeah, I get a little smugma on
get a little smugma on them.
Yeah.
It'll get that stench. That smugma stench.
Wipe a little smugma on their faces. No, so, I mean, it's... GoldenEye just hits all the spots.
So GoldenEye, to summarize,
yes,
kind of it dropped in the moment in your life when you had caught up to Bond.
And I was 18.
Yeah.
It is a male fantasy. I mean, nobody's going to deny
most
that.
Bond films are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, we'll get to that here in just a moment. But yeah, it just hit at just the right time. And it's a movie about understanding who your friends are versus who your enemies are, understanding your what your own ideology or what your own things that you are that you hold dear being compared to because there's a big point where it's like the mission or your friend, and Bond chose the mission.
Mm-hmm.
But as I had mentioned to you, 006 would have been shot by the novel Bond to prevent him from being captured and questioned or tortured or reveal any secrets. The fact that 006 is pissy at Bond for choosing the mission clearly means that he doesn't know anything about Bond. And I think we just established that I do.
Let's take a moment to talk about 1995.
Okay. What you got in 1995?
1995 was a pretty big year.
I graduated from high school.
Well, you did. I didn't.
Oh, I did.
I moved to Indianapolis. I saw my first big festival rock show. I was full of angst.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, and I was discovering a lot of movies. 1995 on the movie landscape was a pretty big year. A lot of good genre films. You have David Fincher's Seven.
Yeah, that's good.
Michael Mann's Heat.
Yep.
You have Toy Story.
Yep.
You have Clueless.
Oh, Clueless is so good.
You have, for better or worse, Showgirls.
Yeah.
by our friend Verhoeven. Dead Man Walking.
The Showgirls was the last NC-17 movie to get a theatrical release.
Oh wow.
It bombed
what about
so-
Crash? Was
It
that
did
after?
not get a wide release.
Well, it played.
Probably play. Yeah, but I mean, like a wide. I should have said wide theatrical release.
You have Casino,
Casino is good.
Apollo 13,
That's pretty good.
The Usual Suspects.
That's very good.
Braveheart.
Oh, that's the winner, right there. That was the best.
Yeah,
picture.
it was the best picture.
Yeah, babe.
Desperado.
Oh, Desperado's good.
12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys is pretty good.
Some weird stuff like To Die For.
Yeah, I like that. That was Gus Van Sant.
Yes. Billy Madison.
Yeah, that's funny
stuff. You've got I like it. It was a phenomenon that summer. Batman Forever.
Yeah, I like it. Oh,
Bad Boys.
good.
Kind of fun.
Yep, fun.
Fucking weird as shit. Judge Dredd. The
Yeah.
big Stallone movie that's leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Get Shorty.
Oh, Get Shorty was the movie that I saw the GoldenEye trailer in front of.
This 1995 is insane.
Yeah.
Strange Days.
Yeah. Okay.
Good freaking flick.
Yep.
Some weird stuff like Outbreak. Kind of a big picture that didn't do so well.
But was fairly decent.
Was it
I
Michael
mean,
Crichton, I think? Yeah. Crimson Tide.
I like that movie.
Yep. Empire Records.
I did not like that movie.
I don't like that movie at all.
Really?
I don't.
We high five
Yeah.
on that.
I think that movie sucks.
Yeah, it sucks real bad, but people fucking
but it
love
is a
that movie.
huge big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it.
We'll
man.
talk about that at some point. Die Hard with a Vengeance.
I like that one.
Yeah. Some goofy stuff like The Net, but it was kind of a big deal.
Hey, this was the year of the internet movies.
Yeah.
I mean, GoldenEye has internet in it.
Tommy Boy.
Oh, fucking love Tommy Boy.
Jumanji.
Okay, yeah.
The Brady Bunch movie.
Yeah.
Fucking Babe.
I love Babe.
Yep.
I love that movie.
It's really good. Home for the Holidays.
That's Nick Cage?
No. Holly Hunter.
Holly Hunter. That's,
Yeah.
What's the... Oh, I know which one I'm thinking of. Okay.
You've got Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, okay.
You got the biggest bomb of the 90s, Waterworld.
Yeah.
You have the most hilarious techno thriller ever made, Hackers.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The Bridges of Madison County.
I like that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
While You Were Sleeping.
I like that movie.
Big hit. Pocahontas, Disney, big hit.
Always big hit with Disney.
Fucking Dangerous Minds.
Yeah.
Pretty big hit.
At the very least, had a huge theme song. Yeah.
Sense and Sensibility went
Okay.
after the art crowd, was a pretty decent hit.
Okay.
Richard Linklater released Before Sunrise.
Oh, yeah.
Spike Lee released Clockers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Denzel starred in Devil in a Blue Dress.
All right. Yeah.
Jim Jarmusch released Dead Man with Johnny Depp.
Oh, yeah. Now, I would say that this 95 is probably... That was a kind of a turning point in movies because you just named off a bunch of movies and they all had to play at some place.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it gets to the point where it's like almost every week, 2 or 3 movies are released, right?
Uh-huh.
And movies cost more and more, mostly because, watch the credits of any movie, and you'd see just whole, like, populations of towns going by, right? And, you know, it's funny how, back then, the biggest grossing movie of 95 probably only made $190 million or something like that. It was probably Batman Forever or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
So it's, that's not impressive.
No.
But there were a lot of movies that made their money back.
Yeah.
Whereas today, to make your money back, you basically have to go to VOD instantly.
Oh, most definitely.
So you have these movies that are
I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Friday.
Oh yeah.
And Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Oh.
Also, the biggest stinker of 95 had to be Congo.
Oh God, I hate that movie. I was so pissed at that movie.
Either that or Johnny Mnemonic.
No, Congo's one of the first movies I've ever paid for.
Oh, bad.
Joe Don Baker, oddly enough, also in GoldenEye.
And then Jessica Lange taking a piss in a kilt or in a dress in Rob Roy.
Oh, the
maybe the first urination scene on film. Maybe?
No,
not on film. Not in a mainstream film, maybe.
I would say no on that too.
Really? A piss?
Yeah.
All right, maybe. You're probably right.
Considering 1960 was the first toilet.
Yeah.
They got 35 years of somebody taking a piss.
Psycho, right?
Yeah.
Was the first shot of a toilet being flushed. Right. Yeah.
So at some point in the
You're
35 years, somebody took a piss.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And somebody in a mainstream movie took a piss on somebody.
It wasn't. They weren't even flushing like excrement. It was a torn up piece of paper.
Yep.
Yeah.
So with GoldenEye, we've hardly talked about the movie at all. So you've got all these little pieces of you've got like hackers, you've got internet, you've got all of these little pieces, like the crumbling Soviet Union and people power grabbing and weapons falling in the hands of people. It's very much a movie of its time, and most Bond movies are that way. The funny thing is that almost every single Bond movie, at least in the first 20 films, are exceptionally dated. And they're talking about needing computers that have 500 megahertz of memory or whatever, and 14.4 modem. And people haven't had that shit in over 20 years. It's incredibly dated, but it fits all of those tropes, and it's those types of things that make GoldenEye, to me, and Bond in general, the best Bond movies know how to use their tropes really, really well. And even though you may see something in a Bond movie that you've seen in 2 or 3 other Bond movies, if it's done at the right time or with the right, with the right, the way it's shot or the way it's, whatever, it elevates those movies. Now, I want to kind of circle back around.
You're going to ask me a question.
Yes, we're going to circle back around to that.
I dodged it.
Yeah.
Dodged it for 20 minutes.
No, you started reading off all the movies that were released in 95.
I was amazed. I pulled it up on my phone. I was like, oh my God, there's so many movies.
Well, at about 10 deep, I was like, he's going to read them all.
I'm going to. Yeah, because they were so good. That year was insane. I mean, we could talk about almost all of those movies.
I know.
That's an amazing year.
I know. I lived it. I was there.
Me too.
I was at the theater.
Usual Suspects and 12 Monkeys are way up there on my list. like those are good.
You got some weirdos and
Usual
Suspects.
Oh God, the movies are great. There are some weirdos in there.
So the question, the elephant in the room. So Bond is at times categorized as chauvinistic.
Yeah, misogynist.
I've heard tool of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
However, probably beginning around this movie's time, you've already mentioned that there's a little bit of reappraisal, or at least a reapproaching of some sort of equality. But
M calls him a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what a lot of people thought leading up to the release of this movie, that Bond wouldn't work without the Cold War.
And it's interesting because she tries to kind of peel back that layer and make Bond a little bit more vulnerable by calling him out on that. But I don't really feel like this movie really answers that question. He sort of just still does his thing.
He still follows his instincts.
Yeah. He does recognize the female lead, the character's name I can't remember.
Yeah, Natalia.
She is, I think, comes across as a very strong female character, and not
at least for the 90s.
And and really, to me, not in like an overly condescending way either.
No,
it's pretty subtle.
I mean, she's got her set of skills.
Right.
And some of her interaction
and she's kind of
with
like, back the fuck off. I got this. And he's kind of like, whoa, okay. And she can cock a gun and load it and all that shit.
Well, some of that comes from, this is what I read into it. Some of that comes from just her working in a computer lab in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm going to guess she's not exactly a warm person.
Right.
Most people who work with computers or in some kind of programming or some sort of high system stuff are not warm people.
But she has clearly been trained militarily.
Oh, had to have been if she's working at a secret facility.
And she's good at her job.
And yep. And
she's confident in her skill set.
Right. But she is not a KGB agent.
No.
So Bond...
No, she has her limitations. Right. She has her vulnerabilities.
And Bond tries to see those vulnerabilities before she can see her usefulness.
Yes. Well, look, he is in the field in a dangerous profession. He's looking at any possible advantage he can gain from any person he is in contact with.
As spies do.
Yeah. His concerns are the mission, and then can I get that ass? I mean, that's Bond.
Yeah.
That's always been Bond.
Right.
I mean, my wife is, she's the most benevolent feminist you'll ever meet, and she fucking loves James Bond, right? It's not about like misogyny or chauvinism. Yes, that's prevalent throughout, but he's just kind of more than just misogynist or chauvinistic. He's kind of just a horn dog.
Well, yeah, so
I don't think that he really discounts the value of women or hates women or just uses women. I just think that
he uses them. He does use them, but it's part of his job.
He uses them the way he would use a man.
Anybody to get the job,
but without the sexual connection.
I think.
He might if the guy was a dude and he was into dudes, he would probably be.
He would probably have to.
I think so. So, and that would be a nice.
They alluded to that in Skyfall.
God, there would be a huge uproar though if they.
No, they alluded to it in Skyfall.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. So I don't know what your question is yet.
But
I might have already answered it.
Steamrolling it.
I might have already answered it.
You kind of did, because here's the thing. It's like I think this is a little bit of a thing that you see. Okay, first of all, so one of the things I was going to talk about was Bond as a character in general, right? And some of that is that idea of that, as I kind of mentioned, that weird British machismo, where they are kind of condescending, and it is kind of there. It is certainly more there in Fleming's novels.
Yeah.
Fleming, here's this rail-thin dude who is the veteran of World War II, who did work in intelligence, who is writing these almost clinical books about spying. And he smoked like fucking 400 cigarettes a day or something like this. And and it's like, apparently he was the most macho man of the 50s in Europe or something. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But there was we've seen it in other movies where the British guy is like, well, I know best. And
right.
We can make fun of all of this all you want from like 50s TV, American television. But the Brits were very, very kind of open about being pretty chauvinistic about stuff.
I just think the 50s and the early 60s in general were just like that, man.
And they might have been.
I mean, fucking watch an episode of Mad Men. It's like, if that's accurate at all. I mean, it's
right.
It was just prevalent. I mean, women were objects to be used for labor, baby making, and cooking. Yeah. I mean, it was prevalent, I think, across most civilized society.
Right. Well, so when you talk about like the novel version of Bond, here he is. I had said the word clinical. He is very clinical. He is mission first. If that means sleeping with this woman to get the information out of her, I will do it. And if it means I have to kill someone to save the day, I'm pulling the trigger before I even think about
do that
it.
too, yeah.
And he's a spy. The movie version softens him up quite a bit. And while, yes, Sean Connery, you can have your issues with Sean Connery is some of the things he's said, some of the way he's acted in certain roles, and certainly Bond is very, I know best. I am Macho Man, and I'll punch you, and I might punch a woman, The modern novels also kind of followed that kind of softening. And then, of course, the Daniel Craig version is a modern man. He's a little bit more Renaissance-y than the rest of them. I mean, he's still rugged. He's still tough guy, but he's not entirely. He's a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, he's not quite as rape kissy.
No. The comic book version over the last few years has been interesting.
Like, there's a comic?
Yeah, Dynamite, which is a comic book company, has the rights to produce James Bond comics. And to be honest with you, the stories have been really good, but Bond himself is completely and totally unlikable. And when you think about it, he shouldn't be likable.
That's true.
I think the problem that a lot of people have with Bond tends to be the gender issue, right?
Well, is it that the male fantasy of the early Bond of the novels has become out of vogue?
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of interesting because in the
like, is it a male secret fantasy, but they can't produce that for the masses,
maybe,
without being more subtle about it?
Maybe. I think the writers, who are all really pretty decent writers, have just stripped away everything that would not make sense for a spy to be.
But you can't make an unlikable Bond movie.
No,
you can't do it.
You can't do it. But what I was going to say is that, a lot of the issue people take with Bond typically is a gender issue, and particularly in this day and age, gender issues. And sometimes if you get a little bit too forceful of a man, some people have problems with that. You get a little too forceful of a woman. Other people have problems with that. And you get a lot of fighting over that, right? Well, the thing is I don't think Bond can be anything else. He's a spy. He's an assassin on top of it. And first and foremost, he's an assassin.
Yeah.
Then he's a spy.
Did you see, you probably haven't seen it, but did you see Red Sparrow?
No.
It's a movie that came out this year. It's about a female Russian spy.
Oh, you mean Black Widow?
Yes, but yes.
But a Red Sparrow.
But not in a superhero movie.
Damn it. I'm not going to see it.
And it's interesting because I think it kind of plays on the James Bond tropes a little bit, but it's from a female perspective. Like, the Red Sparrow program is basically like you are women who are fucking kick-ass, could kill anyone in 2 seconds, but you are going to use everything at your disposal, biologically, sexually, to get what you need to get. Right? So there's like an art of seduction to that. Right?
This sounds an awful lot like somebody wanting to make a Black Widow movie but can't.
Well, I hope that the Black Widow movie takes some notes from it, because it is a solid fucking movie. Like, it is really good. But
Black Widow comics
but it will never be as good, or at least it won't be as direct. I mean, because the Marvel movie will never have nudity. This This really goes into the muck.
Well, I mean, Bond movies don't have nudity.
I mean, Jennifer Lawrence, full front of nudity. That's all you need to know. Well. But yeah, I mean, I think the point I'm trying to make is that you can make that movie. But I think, what's funny about Red Sparrow is that you're kind of like, you root for Jennifer Lawrence, and she's doing all the same shit that James Bond is doing.
Well, and it's again, it comes down to,
and you don't see it as like the patriarchy. You see it as like the programming and this is what she was trained to do.
Right.
But you don't get that from James Bond, where maybe that's the case.
It's a little bit of a double standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it like that because I know just saying that right there.
I'm not trying to invite controversy here.
No, but it's no, and it's like, okay. So first of all,
but it is a double standard.
It is.
I mean, he's a spy.
Guess what spies do?
Yeah.
Bad shit.
Right.
Bad shit that other people, no matter what they say.
Which brings up something that I really liked about GoldenEye, where he sort of started for the first time really questioned about the moral choices that he makes.
Yeah.
Which I like that. I think that is important.
And he still drops that fucker on his head.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He does. And maybe he doesn't change.
But he's forced
to
to
maybe that
answer
change
the
is
question.
incremental. And maybe that's why when we talk about the Daniel Craig movies, where we need 4 movies to get to the point we get, is that change has to be marginal because it's so ingrained in who he is.
Right. Right. It's, let's just be honest. Men and women do things differently.
Yeah, well, sure.
And Bond is created at a time that it can only be a male. You're only going to have males in naval situations where then they become spies. It's like, how many Mata Haris were there compared to how many?
So is that your
Riley
question?
Ace of Spades?
Is that your question? Is like,
Spies.
why isn't there a female Bond?
No.
You haven't asked your question. What the
Well,
hell is your
my question was, what was your take on the whole whether or not he's chauvinistic or whatever?
Right. Well, I've answered that.
I mean, we answer that.
Yeah.
We answer that. So, I mean, like, the creation of Bond is of his time. His appearances in movies are of his time.
Yeah.
Again, and we've talked about this before, I have serious issues with how we apply certain sensibilities to things that don't exist. It's like my 2018 or 19 sensibility of something cannot be applied to 1954 Ian Fleming novel.
Right. I mean,
it can't be.
I didn't talk about this last week in our 50th episode, but the fact that the N-word is used in The Shining.
Like 3 lines in a row.
Is jarring to me. It is. But I also understand why it exists in that movie. Like it has to be there.
It has to.
It has to be there. And I think that we have to accept these things. I don't have to say that word now, but I can accept why it existed in that movie at that time and be at peace with it.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, we could go into a whole tangent about how I feel about words versus intent of words.
Sure.
And we could spend hours talking about that because I am a major proponent of the language is the language.
Yeah.
It's the intent behind it that you find fault with or positivity with or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we could talk about that for hours. But again, it's the kind of same idea. It's like, well, okay, I don't expect any female, feminist or not, to pick up Casino Royale from 1954, read through it, get to the very last sentence of the novel, in which he says, the bitch is dead.
Yeah.
The woman he loved, which did make a change in him, as far as a character. But anyway, for him to turn that coldly on a character that has to have some sympathy, and say that it's, I mean, it's taste. It's not. It can't become the rule. The taste is the taste. I mean,
I think what you're going to get with the future of Bond is an increasing sense of the prevalent ideology of what is going to sell to the mass market.
Right.
Which is always, I mean, look.
Blows up and boom booms.
Right. blows up in boom booms, but also like the way the things are written, like the Daniel Craig movies, the way they're written, they are written for the times,
Right.
and if long as they stay current with what is, I don't want to say acceptable, but
it's what we as a culture deem as acceptable.
Because I always think the Bond movies still always push the envelope.
Sure.
They do, and that's good. I think people want that. They understand that. Like, I want to see something a little risky, but I don't want to see something. I don't want to see an unlikable Bond.
Right. Sure. Sure.
And I think that if you were to go as some people would go back and watch earlier Bond movies and be like, they might roll their eyes. They might like, oh God, with some of the things that is said, but as the series, as the franchise moves forward, I think that they're going to be more accommodating of the present state of civilization.
There are lots of people who grew up, who watched the Sean Connery movies, who roll their eyes at the Roger Moore movies. There are going to be a lot of people who grew up watching the Roger Moore movies who roll their eyes at the Sean Connery movies. Yeah. And that's just one decade apart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the other thing also is that's kind of important to understand is that so Bond is not somebody that I don't think anybody can truly say, I treat people this way because of James Bond.
Right. Yeah.
If you do that, you are an idiot.
Yeah, you've got some weird shit.
James Bond is less likely going to cause someone to become so chauvinistic compared to, let's just say, some of our politicians. I mean, Bond will always be what guys will aspire to, and most women will aspire to be with. I'm sorry, but that's kind of part of the fantasy. The idea that there's somebody who registers enough sexual chemistry that, that's the fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, much like, there are plenty of women who find, I don't know. There's plenty
Ryan
of women.
Gosling.
Well,
what?
No, he's not.
Trying to find who?
It's like, well, take somebody like, I don't know, like a Tom Hardy, who's very
okay,
tough or very rugged, right?
Yeah.
Place him into a role where he's not a particularly nice guy,
right?
And your girlfriend may still like him, or your wife may still like him, or your sister may still like him, may like him more than you feel like they should.
Well,
it's that idea. There is always going to be there's going to be some sort of animal chemistry.
But more, it's like fantasy.
Fantasy.
It's fantasy
reaction.
It's fantasy, yeah. Because you're at that point you're talking about role playing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
sometimes people like giving over control to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes some people like going both ways on that.
It's the whole reason why we're like so attracted to Xenia Onatopp
and
GoldenEye.
Yeah.
It's like, she can dominate me however she wants. Like yes. I mean, yes, this is a human natural thing.
Right.
Yes.
So just a couple of last little tidbits here I do want to talk about in terms of GoldenEye's impact. Two things. One, obviously, a massively important Nintendo game, or not important, but popular Nintendo game.
It's important too.
It is important.
I mean, it was really the first like truly multiplayer first-person shooter.
Without that, you don't have your Halos or your Call of Duties.
No. I mean, almost any shooter today owes a debt of gratitude to GoldenEye.
Yep. A lot of people began staying a lot more indoors.
Yeah.
And ultimately will end up starting to play with people all over the world.
Yeah.
Because of GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's true.
it was surely the most the highest selling.
It had to be
N64.
I don't know, but it had to be.
Yeah. Then it was the whole reason why I had an N64.
I mean, it was eclipsed not that long after by several games, but it was the one. Like, it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was the perfect party game.
Uh-huh.
You know, you go over, you got 3 other buddies.
Yep.
Let's
God,
let's play in the stacks.
I was terrible at it.
I wasn't very good at it, but fuck, it was fun.
It was, yeah.
Um,
I liked it when you played slappers.
Oh,
Slappers
yeah.
only.
Yeah. I always wanted to
They
play
make a joke about that in Ready Player One.
Yes.
She's like, yes, I know what slappers is.
Yeah. I did like. I always like playing with the Moonraker lasers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because it's pew pews. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Then the other thing is for the next. This was the first of 7 consecutive movies that grossed more and more and more and more.
Wow.
Until Bond finally crossed the $1 billion mark with Skyfall. This movie made something like $125 million. I think.
Wow.
Tomorrow Never Dies made something like 150 or 130 million or something. And then once you got to the Daniel Craig Bonds, it was incremental, like 300 million.
So Spectre blew it.
Spectre fell short. However, domestically, I think it ended up becoming, or no, domestically it was just short of Skyfall.
Huh.
Ultimately, Skyfall made over $1 billion, like 1.1 billion or something worldwide, and Spectre made like 830.
Oh wow, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, put that onto the list of this year's grosses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I mean, Avengers made 2.1 billion or 2.2 billion worldwide. Like, Black Panther was like 1.8 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, Skyfall is probably still in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, even with Invincibles or Incredibles.
So Daniel Craig's coming back for one more dance,
which is
right?
Bond number 25.
Even though he said that he would rather slit his wrist than make another Bond movie.
I think there was a misunderstanding of his. I think he had just come off of Spectre. He got injured making Spectre.
Yeah.
I think he was referring to the stunts more than anything. I think he was, I really don't like doing the stunts that I have to do as Bond. But he makes a lot of money.
Well, yeah. He'll probably make, I don't know, quarter of $100 million, 25 million, quarter of $100 million.
Quarter of $100 million? Yeah. What he makes.
What do they pay Bond these days?
With the ever higher grosses, a hell of a lot more than they used to.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, it's a popular series that is just waiting for its next iteration.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? What is that next iteration?
That's the interesting thing, because I think
is it somebody like Idris Elba, or is it another guy who's just kind of more like. Or is it a guy who maybe, like we talked about somebody like Tom Hardy, who a lot more rugged, certainly has tattoos, stuff like that. I mean, is that the next iteration of Bond?
Hard to say.
Or
do they go younger? Do they go older?
Do they go bigger? Do they go different race?
Black? What is the? I hope they do, but I don't want them to force it. I think Idris Elba would have been great.
Yeah,
10
but he's
years
too
ago.
He's too old now.
Yeah, he's just too old now.
I mean, and here's the thing.
God, he would have been great though.
He would have been great.
God.
Bond is. I mean, we live in a world where spies come in different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
What you're likely not going to see is a female Bond until you have a character that can live up to being a female Bond.
Yeah,
it's just not going to be Jane Bond.
I
or
know,
something.
right.
Yeah.
I wish that they would kind of maybe start to plant some seeds there, though.
Yeah.
Even if it were like, I would even be okay with a spinoff, right?
Yeah.
Like something that they can maybe plant some seeds. I mean, there are a lot of strong female characters in the current James Bond series. Why can't they do something with that?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe they can. I mean, and I mean, that's just kind of one of those things where it's like we're waiting for that next iteration. Yeah. What is that next iteration? Is it?
It's amazing though that they haven't expanded the world of James Bond. Like it's kind of and maybe they don't want to dilute the water.
That's probably it. And also, Eon has always been kind of cheap.
Yeah.
So there's no real good. I mean, I think the one time they wanted to expand the series, turned out that movie sucked balls real bad. They wanted to take Halle Berry's character and give her. Wow. That would have been like fucking Catwoman.
Yeah, it would have been bad.
It would have been terrible.
Oh God.
That character was not very good.
No, it wasn't.
She wasn't very good in that. She didn't look comfortable at all.
Nope.
Sometimes I wonder how Halle Berry won an Oscar, except for the fact that she was really good that one time.
Yep. She always seems like she's phoning it. She's a poor woman's Angela
Brando?
Bassett.
Oh,
Marlon Brando.
A poor woman's Marlon Brando. Holy shit! That was sorry, I didn't mean it like
she's
that.
a poor woman's Angela Bassett. Angela
Bassett comes to play.
She comes correct every damn time. Yeah. God damn it. Like, she killed it in the new Mission Impossible.
Yeah, she did.
Like, she is just, I got 2 machine guns. I got 2 hands. I'm going to shoot them both off. Like, she's awesome. I love her. Halle Berry's is kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, she's,
mediocre.
Yeah. But that was the time that they thought about it, and glad they didn't. I'm sure they're glad they didn't.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that movie
Catwoman sucked.
Yeah, and she wasn't even playing Catwoman. she wouldn't have played Catwoman.
She knew she was in a piece of shit.
She did.
You could see it on her face.
Well, considering she showed up to accept her Razzie.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, which kudos to her, honestly.
Yeah,
that's kind of awesome.
Hilarious.
That's pretty hilarious.
But anyway, so we talked. Gosh, did we just make it to where we never have to talk about another Bond movie again?
I think so.
God damn it.
I think so.
Fuck you,
We just covered all of Bond.
Fuck.
Yep.
God damn it.
Yep.
But GoldenEye.
Think of what you can add to the next one, but we covered Bond.
Yeah. So when it comes to GoldenEye, again, I say this lovingly, your mileage will probably vary as far as whether or not this is up your alley or not. Maybe you like the 60s Bonds because you like their aesthetic. Maybe you like the silliness of the 70s Bond. Maybe you just don't like Pierce Brosnan. I don't know. Or maybe you started by watching Casino Royale and that's the world you want to be in there is the more modern Bond. But
that's a pretty good one.
Sure.
This is a pretty good one.
This is a pretty good one.
This is a pretty good one. I mean, it's got some goofy tech, but honestly, this is kind of a timeless Bond.
This again, it knows what tropes it needs to play with, and it hits it.
And you get another 00 as the villain. Yep. That's cool.
And it's Sean Bean.
Sean Bond or Sheen Bean?
Sheen Bean.
It can't be Sean Bond. I mean, Sean Bean. It can't be. It doesn't make any sense. Is Sean Bond or Sheen Bean?
Sheen Bean. So you got Sheen Bean. You got Sean Bean.
Sheen Bean.
Sheen Bean. He's he's bringing it. He's good. You got young Alan Cumming.
Yep.
And Famke Janssen. We hardly talked about her.
We hardly talked about her,
but she's back. She's same year as Lord of Illusions.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
She's
she is sexy.
She puts in one hell of a performance in this.
Yes.
She is 100% into this thing.
Yes. And she wants to have you say hello to her little thighs.
Oh, man. And the only note I took is Minnie Driver.
Minnie Driver shows up.
In the cameo as the Russian karaoke singer, which is so fucking weird.
Who is the mistress of Robbie Coltrane's Russian character.
That is so weird.
Well, everybody wanted to be in Bond.
That is
Bond was
bizarre.
back.
Yeah.
You know?
And they made, like, she had close-ups.
Yes.
Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she kind of gives Robbie Coltrane the business when he tells her to take a hike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jesus, what a weird thing. Minnie Driver doing a Russian accent just in and of itself is hilarious.
As she's singing Stand By Your Man.
Right, yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
Yep.
That is That is like the moment. I transform in the thing. I'm just like, no. New reality. I can't. This is too weird.
Yeah. So I think though we are not done with director Martin Campbell.
No, we're not.
Martin Campbell also, I should point out, not only did he bring Pierce Brosnan into the world as Bond, but he also birthed Daniel Craig's Bond with Casino Royale, which is interesting because I say when you bring in the next Bond, hire this guy.
Why not?
Why not? He's successfully done it twice.
Yep, that makes sense.
So because of that,
gets the timeliness of the character and the character.
He gets it.
Yep.
He gets it. There's another character he understands, I think, pretty well, too. And that's who we're going to talk about next week.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to talk about another movie that I am a big, big fan of for lots of reasons. And that is The Mask of Zorro.
Yes.
You got some Antonio Banderas. You've got some Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
And you've got Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
And you've got a really, really, really annoying white man bad guy with the goofy mustache.
Who played that?
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't know.
We'll look at that.
We'll have to look that up. But he is so annoying and so smug that I cannot wait to watch him die.
I'm sort of amazed that Robert Rodriguez never made a Zorro movie.
I know, right?
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. So yeah, and James Horner, man.
Yeah.
We've got lots to talk about there.
For sure.
So we will do that next week. In the in-between time, I have bmovieeinema.com where you'll see me talk about, I don't remember what movies I'm talking about this week.
Something
good.
Something be crazy.
Something
be crazy.
And then on Monday, Monster Mondays, little 10 to 15 minute little way to start your week.
Yep.
Talking about monsters.
Who doesn't like that?
I know, right?
Who doesn't like talking about monsters?
Well, I like talking about monsters. Yeah. I like to do it on Mondays. And then, so where can people find us, Mr. Oliver?
Oh, my goodness. They can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Film Seizure. You can watch our episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, now they are just the audio versions. It's just that if you like YouTube better, you got YouTube.
Can do that. You can always visit us at our home base, filmseizure.com.
Home base.
We like it there. You can see all of our wonderful episodes on Film Seizure. Everything we've got, I think Monster Mondays go up there as well.
Yep. Also, you can find that stuff on SoundCloud.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, that's stuff to look at, stuff to do.
So please check us out. You can also give us a shout at filmseizure@gmail.com and say, hey, I wish you would watch this movie because it was my favorite when I was 10 years old and it would make a good episode. We'll check it out.
I guess, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Sure. And also, if you would like for us to watch a Bond movie, I'm not going to say no. Even if it's one of the shitty ones.
Geoff will watch it on his own time, and maybe we'll talk about it.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah. Until next week, when we go south of the border for a Mexican legend.
Yes, indeed.
I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver. And you have been listening to Film Seizure.
See him move through smoke and mirrors. Feel his presence in the crowd. Other girls, they gather around him. If I had him, I wouldn't let him out. GoldenEye, not lace or leather.
You don't like me, Bond. You don't like my methods. You think I'm an accountant. A bean counter, more interested in my numbers than your instincts.
The thought had occurred to me.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur. A relic of the Cold War. Whose boyish charms, though wasted on me, obviously appeal to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you.
Point taken.
Not quite, 007. If you think for one moment I don't have the balls to send a man out to die, your instincts are dead wrong. I've no compunction about sending you to your death. But I won't do it on a whim, even with your cavalier attitude towards life.